Well, hello everyone. This is Scott Roberts here with Dr. Harrison Schmitt from Apollo 17, and it is a real privilege to be able to sit here with you and do this. So, you live in the area? You live in?
Oh yes, I've lived in New Mexico most of my life.
I see. That's fantastic.
Born in a little town.
Yes.
Born in a little town called Silver City.
Silver City. Okay, great. Well, I love New Mexico. It's a beautiful state, you know, and
My wife Teresa was born in Los Alamos, so we're native New Mexico.
Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's wonderful that you guys are here to talk with amateur astronomers. Right now, we're broadcasting to more amateur astronomers around the world, and you know, especially with the all the awareness of us traveling back to the moon, the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, which is celebrated for the Apollo 17 this year. Is that right?
Yes. December is our month.
Wow. Okay, so you must have a big gala.
Well, we're working on a lot of things and expecting to do a lot more.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, I had some questions, so we'll get through them here. Okay. So I wanted to know what your role in Apollo 17 was, and how, you know, of course, how you're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary.
Well, my principal role was as a lunar module pilot for the mission, and to prepare for that, I became a jet pilot, helicopter pilot, and plus had about 30 months of actual direct spacecraft training related first to the Apollo 15 mission.
Okay.
And then to the Apollo 17 mission. So that's the primary function. When you're in space, everybody is an active pilot. And my role was in the command and service module that took us to the moon and returned us.
All right.
My role there was primarily as a systems engineer. And my role in the lunar module, Challenger, that landed in the Valley of Taurus Littrow, was both as a systems engineer and as a co-pilot, as a backup as a pilot, and assisting in the landing at Taurus Littrow.
Wow. Okay. So
also, of course, I brought the expertise of a field geologist, which is the primary reason I was selected as an astronaut to begin with. And I just had to make sure that I was as good as, or better than anybody else at actually flying the spacecraft.
no, I bet. I'm sure you were. So, you know, I know that, well, recently, and this is not in my line of questions here, but I do want to ask you towards the end of our conversation about moon dust. You found out you were allergic to moon dust, which I found very interesting. But how did making the trip to the moon affect your worldview?
Well, I think the primary thing as a geologist, once seeing the Earth in space was something that wasn't unexpected, but it was really a great experience. Yeah. Geologists study the Earth, that's what it means.
Sure.
And so having a chance to see it in space didn't surprise me. I expected to see it.
Of course.
I think it surprised some of the other guys, but nevertheless did not surprise me. But I had a chance not only to see it, but to spend 3 days observing weather patterns in the southern hemisphere. Because of our trajectory, we were actually viewing the southern hemisphere as it changed every 24 hours. And as an amateur meteorologist, it gave me a great opportunity to see how these southern hemisphere weather patterns develop. They're different somewhat than the northern hemisphere, both in terms of circulation, but also because there are many fewer continents to disturb their patterns.
Well, that's I try to put myself in an astronaut's view, and although I would expect it too, I think for myself it would really make a cognitive shift. You know, I mean, I think I would have kind of a deep, profound.
I think that might change a little bit with the kind of training that you would have to have.
Right.
For an Apollo mission, anyway.
Sure.
If you go into space as a passenger and you've thought about it for a little while, and you haven't had a lot of preparation or knowledge about other missions and things like that, it might catch you by surprise.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Uh, what did you do that had the biggest impact in your life after Apollo?
Well, I think the one of the major things I did was run for the United States Senate, elected from the state of New Mexico, and spent 6 years learning political science in Washington, D.C., as well as serving many constituents here in New Mexico. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a great experience for me. And
Right.
subsequently, I've continued to do both research on lunar materials and observations that I collected at Taurus Littrow on the moon, but also to consult with companies and NASA on return to the moon. And so it's been an exciting
Oh my
trip,
gosh.
even since Apollo 17.
I can imagine it's never stopped, really. Um, you have a new book out. Do you want to talk about your book a little bit?
Well, it's not exactly a new book.
New
It was
book.
published in 2006,
Okay.
but it really looks at how you might put together a private business case for returning to the moon. It's focused primarily on the access to a resource there called helium-3. It's a light isotope of helium, rare,
Okay.
but it has tremendous energy potential for fusion power.
Hmm.
And the moon may turn out to be our primary source of energy sometime
Wouldn't
decades
that
hence.
wouldn't that be amazing? And we've got these prototype fusion reactors, and if that was the material, you know, harvesting stuff back from the moon and working back and forth, I can see that being a career for someone. You know, to
Well, there's a lot going on. Even since I wrote that book, there have been tremendous advances in what we call aneutronic fusion. That is fusion that does not produce the bad actors called neutrons.
Mhm.
Most fusion research that's been done is a deuterium-tritium fusion process that still produces actually more neutrons than does fission power.
I
And
see.
it's the neutrons that create a lot of radioactivity and it cause problems in maintaining the power plant and so forth. If you can get fusion with helium-3 that does not produce those neutrons, you're way ahead of the game,
Oh, that.
economically as well as in terms of efficiency of the power plant.
Right, right. Well, what do you think about the future of our return to the moon? You know, I mean, do you think that is something that's going to happen a couple of years from now? Do you think that that is something a decade out? How
Well,
far?
it better happen fast
Hmm.
from the perspective of the United States and the free world, because China is definitely going back to the moon,
Absolutely.
and they're moving very rapidly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that the folks in Washington have fully awakened to that fact, but they better very soon. And the primary thing that needs to be looked at is the creation of a large booster, something comparable to the Saturn V or even bigger. We have a lot of boosters, private sector as well as the new SLS that is now scheduled to launch in August, late August. But you really need something bigger than that. You need something that can put 44, as we did, or 50 metric tons on a trajectory to the moon.
It's a lot
And
of
we
weight.
don't have that right now.
Yeah.
The Chinese are working on one. We are not.
Hmm.
And that's very important. If you're going to have a sustained access to the moon and to utilize its resources to build a permanent settlement there someday, you need that kind of capability. And so I hope that very soon an administration and a Congress will wake up to the competition that we're in. We're basically in another Cold War.
I believe that.
Very much the same stimulus should be felt as we had for Apollo.
Right, right. I've been to the fast radio telescope in China, the 500 meter, and you see you know, China's not stopping at anything to be first in the world, and so that's, you know, we should wake up to what's happening. You know, I do see that you know, us going to the moon was done for all of humanity, but it was also to help us in our country be leaders in technology. You know, a lot of all the spin-off technology that came from Apollo and
Well,
NASA, and still comes.
There really should be no mistake of what the stimulus was for Apollo. It was the Cold War with the
Sure.
then Soviet Union.
Right.
We happened to utilize that capability then to do science on the moon and to add to humanity's store of knowledge.
Right.
But the primary driving force, the primary motivation of the nation as well as individuals was the competition with the then Soviet Union and the psychological importance of showing that the free world had a superior technology base, had a superior motivation, and that freedom was in fact a better mechanism for governing people than communism.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's been an honor to talk to you. I did have that last question because I was reading about moon dust and had learned that you were allergic to moon dust. How much of a danger is it for future moon colonists to be up on the moon?
Well, I personally was temporarily allergic. It
Okay.
affected me after the first EVA when we took the helmets off. I had just a hay fever-like reaction
Okay.
in my
It wasn't like an
respiratory
anaphylactic
system.
kind of.
Oh no,
Okay.
just a hay fever, and then it gradually dissipated. I apparently adapted to it, and by the end of our stay on the moon, it wasn't affecting me at all. Now, on the other hand, a very small percentage of people may have a more serious reaction. One of the flight surgeons who was assigned the duty of retrieving our spacesuits, lunar spacesuits, from the command module after splashdown, had a much more serious reaction and had to give up that job to somebody else. He could not tolerate dust, and this was even after the dust had been largely deactivated. So it's going to be important to recognize that a small percentage, certainly less than 10, probably less than 1% of the population might have a severe respiratory reaction to lunar dust. Well, it smells like gunpowder, as a matter of fact.
Does it really?
Like spent gunpowder. Everybody had the same impression. But it is activated. It's like activated charcoal, which is what gunpowder is, spent gunpowder. And so it makes you smell, I think you're smelling very much the same thing.
When you look up at the moon, I'll finish with this. When you look up at the moon today, are there times where you just go back to when you were on the surface? You have moments like that?
Well, I get to do that all the time. Every time there's a moon you can see, and things that I saw from lunar orbit, I can see now from Earth and maybe understand better.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do.
The ring around a new moon, that's something I think I understand now. I didn't even think about it before. But
yeah,
I saw the ring while I was in orbit around the moon. So it's illuminated. It's mountains illuminated by Earthlight.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. But and then I spent a lot of time like this talking with people about the moon. So it's a very real and alive thing for me.
Well, we're all lucky to be here in our presence. We have a bunch of people here watching this interview. It's really amazing that someone like you would come down to talk to people like us as amateurs that are in love with looking at the moon, wonder what it would be like to explore the moon, with our own footsteps. So,
well, keep thinking about it.
Yeah,
you might have that chance.
Well, you might. That's great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Harrison, my name is Jim Fordyce.